You're going to die. Not eventually. Soon. Maybe today. Maybe in 50 years. The timing is unknown, but the outcome is certain. And instead of being depressed by this fact, the Stoics made it their primary tool for power. This is Memento Mori. Remember you must die. And it's the most dangerous philosophy ever created, because it doesn't paralyze people. It frees them. If you want to understand how to use mortality as a weapon against fear, subscribe and hit the bell. Because after this video, we're talking about the dichotomy of control, the one principle that will restructure your entire life. But first, let's talk about why the most powerful people in history spent their entire lives meditating on death. Memento Mori is Latin for remember you must die. It's not a morbid obsession, it's a strategic practice. It comes from the Roman Empire, where soldiers would be reminded of their mortality before heading into battle. It's a meditation technique, where you sit with the reality that your life will end, your body will decay, and everything you've built will eventually crumble. And from that acceptance comes radical clarity about what actually matters.
Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in the world, emperor of Rome, commander of millions, spent his evenings writing in his personal journal, and one of his most frequent entries was a reminder to himself, "You will die." He didn't do this once a year, he did this regularly. Why? Because he understood something that most people never figure out. Mortality is not your enemy, it's your advisor.
The Stoic philosophers Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, Cato all practiced Memento Mori obsessively. And they didn't do it because they were depressed. They did it because they understood that once you truly accept your death, you become psychologically invulnerable. You can't threaten someone with death if they've already accepted it. You can't control someone with social rejection if they've already imagined being forgotten. You can't motivate someone with future promises if they know there might not be a future. Here's the power of Memento Mori. It destroys the tyranny of the future. Most people live as if they have infinite time. They postpone the conversation they need to have. They stay in the relationship that's poisoning them. They avoid the risk that could change their life. They pursue money they don't need and status that doesn't matter. Why? Because there's always tomorrow. There's always next year. There's always time. But there isn't always time. And Memento Mori forces you to confront that. You don't have infinite tomorrows. You have a finite number of days. And every day you don't act on what matters is a day you'll never get back.
Let's talk about the history. In ancient Rome, after a military victory, a general would be awarded a triumph, a parade where crowds would line the streets and shower him with praise. It was the highest honor a Roman could receive. The general would ride through the city in a chariot, soldiers would carry his plunder, crowds would chant his name, and behind him, standing in the chariot, was a slave. The slave's only job was to whisper in the general's ear, over and over, "Memento Mori, remember you must die."
Why? Because the Romans understood something crucial. The moment you believe you're untouchable, you become vulnerable. The moment you think you've achieved everything, you stop growing. The moment you forget that death is coming, you start making stupid decisions based on ego and fear. The slave wasn't there to depress the general. He was there to keep him sharp. Seneca, Roman Stoic philosopher and advisor to Nero, wrote extensively about Memento Mori. He didn't say meditate on death because it's grim. He said meditate on death because it changes your behavior. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all invested in good works." Seneca's point was radical. You don't need more time. You need to stop wasting the time you have. And you only realize you're wasting time once you accept that your time is limited. Now, here's how Memento Mori works psychologically. When you truly accept your mortality, three things happen. First, fear loses its grip. You're not afraid of failure anymore, because failure is temporary, and you're not. You're not afraid of embarrassment, because in 10 years you'll be dead, and nobody will remember your embarrassing moment. You're not afraid of loss, because you were always going to lose everything anyway. Death strips away all the petty fears that control most people. Second, your priorities reorganize instantly. Right now, you might be stressed about impressing your boss, or making your ex jealous, or proving something to people who don't care about you. But when you sit with the fact that you're dying, those suddenly seem insane. What actually matters? The people you love, the things you believe in, the mark you leave. Everything else is noise. Third, you become dangerous. Not to other people, to the status quo. Once you accept death, you can't be intimidated into compliance. You can't be threatened into silence. You can't be controlled with the promise of a promotion or the threat of being fired. You've already lost the thing everyone can take from you, your life, so you become free to act on what you actually believe. Marcus Aurelius used Memento Mori strategically. When he was making decisions as emperor, which often affected the lives of thousands of people, he would remind himself of his mortality. And this did something crucial. It made him more compassionate. Because if he was going to die, so were they. If his power was temporary, so was theirs. If his legacy would eventually be forgotten, so would theirs. This killed his ego, and a person without ego makes better decisions. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who was born a slave, used Memento Mori to survive torture. The Roman who enslaved him was brutal. One day, the slave master twisted Epictetus's leg. Most men would have begged for mercy. Epictetus calmly said, "If you keep twisting, you'll break it." The master broke his leg. Epictetus didn't flinch. He said, "I told you so." Later, when asked how he could remain so calm, Epictetus explained, "I've already accepted that I'm going to die. My body is just matter. What happens to matter doesn't concern me." This isn't inhuman. This is freedom. Epictetus wasn't numb. He was free, because he'd already mourned his own death. Actual suffering couldn't touch him. Now, let's talk about the modern application. Most people are terrified of death, so they never meditate on it. And this terror leaks into every decision they make. You stay in a job you hate because you're terrified of instability. You stay in a relationship that's destroying you because you're terrified of being alone. You refuse to speak up because you're terrified of conflict. You don't pursue your goals because you're terrified of failure. Fear of death has become fear of living. But when you practice Memento Mori, when you actually sit with your mortality and let it sink in, something shifts. You realize that instability is temporary, loneliness is temporary, conflict is temporary, failure is temporary, everything is temporary, and the only thing that isn't temporary is the fact that you're here right now. Here's the Memento Mori practice. Once a week, sit alone for 30 minutes and meditate on your death, not morbidly, rationally. Imagine your funeral, your casket being lowered into the ground, your friends standing there, the things people say about you, good or bad. Imagine your grave in 100 years, untended, no one visiting. Your name forgotten. Stay with this feeling until it stops feeling scary, until it feels liberating. Then, ask yourself, given that I'm going to die, am I spending my life on what matters? Am I with the right people? Am I doing work that means something? Am I running from something I should face? Am I pursuing something I don't actually want? The discomfort you feel in that meditation is valuable. It's telling you where you're out of alignment with your actual values. Cato, the Younger, a Roman senator, lived according to Memento Mori so completely that when he realized he couldn't stop Caesar from taking over Rome, he walked into the woods and took his own life. Most people hear that and think he was depressed. But in Stoic philosophy, Cato wasn't running from life. He was choosing to end his life on his own terms rather than live as a slave. Whether you agree with his choice or not, his logic was pure. He'd accepted his mortality and decided how he wanted to spend the last moment of it. Now, Memento Mori is often misunderstood as morbid or depressing, but it's the opposite. The Stoics who practiced it weren't depressed. They were the most alive people in history. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, the most powerful position imaginable, was known for his calm. Seneca, despite being one of the richest men in Rome, voluntarily lived simply and gave his wealth away. Epictetus, despite being a slave, was known for his peace. They weren't depressed. They were free. Because once you accept that you're going to die, you stop playing the game everyone else is playing. You stop trying to win a competition that has no finish line. You stop trying to collect things that won't matter. You stop trying to impress people who won't remember you. And you start building something that might actually last: character, relationships, contributions. Here's what Memento Mori does to your relationships. It makes you present. You're not thinking about the past or the future, you're here now, and that's the only moment you actually have. People can feel when you're present, and presence is the rarest gift in the modern world. Here's what it does to your ambition. It refocuses it. You still want to achieve things, but you're not chasing them because you think they'll make you happy or because you're running from failure. You're chasing them because they matter. And when your ambition is untethered from ego, you become unstoppable. Here's what it does to your fear. It exposes it as a fraud. Every fear you have is ultimately based on one thing: fear of death, or fear of dying before you've lived. But if you've already accepted death, then fear has nothing to work with. You're vaccinated against it.
Now, the one misunderstanding people have about Memento Mori, they think it means you should be reckless or nihilistic. That if everything doesn't matter because you're going to die, then nothing matters. But that's backwards. The Stoics said the opposite. Because everything is temporary and you're temporary, the things you do matter more, not less. Because this is all you have. Every conversation, every choice, every moment, this is literally all you get. So you'd better make it count.
For those of you who are paralyzed by fear right now, fear of the future, fear of failure, fear of judgment, Memento Mori is your weapon. Because you're already afraid of the one thing that would make all those other fears irrelevant. So sit with that fear, let it become real, and then ask yourself, is there anything worse than that? And when you realize there isn't, everything else becomes manageable. The most powerful people in history weren't powerful because they had the most resources or the best luck. They were powerful because they'd already died psychologically. They'd already accepted the worst that could happen. And once you've done that, there's nothing anyone can do to you that you haven't already prepared for. Your death is the ultimate advisor. It will tell you what matters. It will show you where you're wasting time. It will reveal what you're actually afraid of. And if you listen to it, if you really sit with it and let it change you, it won't kill you. It will save you.
If this video made you realize you've been wasting time on things that don't matter, good. Subscribe and hit the bell. Because next week we're talking about the dichotomy of control, the principle that divides the world into what you can control and what you can't. And once you understand this, you'll stop spinning your wheels on things that were never yours to control in the first place. Because Memento Mori tells you that you're dying. The dichotomy of control tells you how to spend the time you have left.
Remember, you must die. So, live.